Good afternoon. Good to be here at TEDxSalford. I was at TEDx Brussels. I think this is bigger. I think we're doing it bigger here in Salford. I'm going to talk to you a little bit this afternoon about that guy. Isn't he great? I love the face of that guy. That's the face of every entrepreneur, just in case you didn't know that. They may not show it to you, but never forget that that's the face that's going on inside of them. And so the next time your cousin or your brother or your friend down the street or your work colleague says they're going to do something, they're going to set up a business or they are setting up a business and they're doing X and you say, not sure it's going to work, just remember that inside they've got that look going on and they're going to show it to you. Now, I frequently say, follow the entrepreneur. I'm going to give you two good reasons why we should, as a nation, as a group of people, follow the entrepreneur. And that's really the following. They see the inevitable. Entrepreneurs, through dint of being sometimes a bit off the reservation, or a unique experience in their job, or some sort of special intelligence or market opportunity, they see what's coming down the pike. They see the future. They see what inevitably is going to come. But most importantly, they're willing to live abnormal lives. Now, you can define abnormal however you want to, but I think we all know what we mean. I think we all have a friend or a loved one that's working more than a workaholic. They're living in abnormal lives, a life to bring the future to us. And those are two good reasons why I think we need to follow the entrepreneur. Now, if I think about my own industry, venture capital, and if I kind of go back as far as Christopher Columbus, go back as far as Michelangelo, think about other people besides Deborah who crossed the ocean, other people who painted the Sistine Chapel. We've had that class of people, entrepreneurs, throughout history. We haven't always called them entrepreneurs. Sometimes we've called them creators. Sometimes we've called them adventurers, etc. But there's been a dynamic throughout history for a very long time. There's a group of people who see the future, who work abnormal lives to bring that future to us. And there's another group of people who have capital. And that capital follows the money. And that to me was a major revelation when I was living in Paris in my early 20s, obsessed, frankly, about having no money. I thought, my God, how am I going to break through? I know no one. I've come to this country and they weren't waiting for me, and oh my God, what am I going to do? Until my friend at the time said, stop worrying about the money. If you're good at what you do, if you're meant to do it, the money will find you. And I thought that it was the most ridiculous idea I had ever heard. And I told him that. Until I stopped to think about it and I said, well, he is older, successful, wiser, etc. And I tell you, the past 25 years has been one long example of the less I focus on the money, the more I focus on my unique contribution, the more I focus on what I'm meant to do, my unfair advantage, play to my strengths, the more the money finds me. And I really encourage you to think the same way. But the bigger issue is that the financial services industry thinks it's an industry. It's not. It's a service industry to industry. And that's where we got to get everybody understanding that what we're here to do is to back industry. I back digital industrialists. I'm a capital provider to digital industrialists. And that's the proper order of things. And throughout history, capital has always followed ideas, and the people who are at the front of purveying those ideas and building structures, businesses, companies, countries, etc., around the leading ideas of the day. Queen Isabella was nothing more than a woman who put Christopher Columbus on a retainer. The Medici family were there to back Michelangelo as he explored and developed the Sistine Chapel. So just remember, when you're thinking, how do I get that money? I can't do anything because I don't have any money. Wrong. Capital follows ideas, always has, always will. So remember the new economy. Turns out it's only the latest version of new. How many of you have heard of Carlota Perez? Not that many hands going up out there. Put it on your reading list. Carlota Perez, Theory of Disruptive Technology and Adoption. Basically, what Carlota has done very helpfully is looked at the past couple hundred years. And she's pointed out there's a moment of disruptive technology from which 60 to 70 years of technological change emerges. And one of the things that's most missing from the narrative that we read in the business papers and the publications and so forth that the country reads is understanding how technology creates prosperity. It's not just a niche industry from some of us who love to hang out with technologists. It's actually one of the key drivers and levers of change and growth and prosperity. You can't be a high growth business unless you're leveraging finance and technology. You can be a good business, you could be a lifestyle business, you can be an honest, hardworking managing director of a business, but you can't actually be a high growth business without technology and finance. So this little chart here just shows you those moments of disruptive technology, the big bangs of technological change. And then what happens is a cycle of the installation of new technologies and the deployment of those technologies into big business. And what Carlotta did is she was a Venezuelan economist. She went out to Silicon Valley, where I grew up, and in 1971 she was expecting to study oil. And in the changing of courses that Deborah spoke about, what she found the Intel microprocessor. She went to study oil, she ended up studying the microprocessor. And she realized that the phenomenon that she was witnessing was none other than one that comes every 60 or 70 years, and then you have a series of installation and deployment of those technologies. And here are just a couple of companies and people that you will recognize, all that have stemmed out like concentric circles from that big bang of disruptive technology. So the revolution starts as a small fact with big promise and moves to become a significant force in the market. And that's why I never underestimate any entrepreneur that I meet. The first time I met Nicholas Zenstrom, he had been raising capital for 18 months. He didn't look like the guy who was going to sell Skype to eBay less than 2 years later for $2.5 billion. The most important things in life start off as a small fact with huge promise, and they can become significant forces in the market and in your life if you believe in them. Now, these big bangs attract new investment. I was asked earlier, what, should I go out to Silicon Valley to set up my business? I said, no. There are some of us that are trying to get the capital providers, and we are capital providers, to back the companies that are built around the technologies. Most importantly, I say, a new context is emerging. And for those of us who understand that a new common sense is emerging in the world, we need to communicate that the future is not going to be like the past. The job that you have tomorrow is not going to be like the one that you lost. That there's a process of constant change, and that while it's difficult, it's inevitable. And that we have to be the purveyors of saying, there's a new expanding pie. There's a set of changes that technology is going to bring to our lives, and we have to be in control of those changes so that they don't further create more divisions, more unfair inequality, etc. But it is inevitable. So what Carlotta talks about in her theory of disruptive technology is that you have this economic, institutional, and technological change, which just runs like a circle and keeps on moving throughout history. And if we don't introduce this into the country's dialogue about what's happening, it's not just about monetary policy, it's not about political, it's about how technology creates a new common sense for how the world at the end of this 60-year cycle will not be like the world that was existing in 1971 in Silicon Valley when Carlotta Perez went out in search of oil and found the microprocessor. And the world which emerges with the next big bang, whatever that big bang of disruptive technology will be still different and will create a whole new reality, a new common sense as well. And we have to be open to that because the winners are the people who get to the other side first and welcome everybody across. So what does that mean? In simple Julie language, when I first came to this country in 1998, I set up a network of entrepreneurs called First Tuesday. And everybody who came to First Tuesday events, we had them in Manchester as well. These were digital revolutionaries, internet entrepreneurs. They were David with his slingshot. They wanted to kill and assassinate the Goliaths of the day. And it didn't really work out that way. A couple of them survived, and you know the big internet names that survived and so forth. But I would argue that today it's a very different dynamic. David and Goliath need to dance. Remember, through the last 12 years, broadband mobile technology just continued to penetrate into our lives. We are living our lives more with the benefit of technology. We just don't think of it as technology. And so the digital entrepreneurs that come to my office today at Ariadne Capital, they're looking for our ACE fund to invest in them. They don't say things like, we've got this great piece of disruptive technology and we're going to kill Tesco, we're going to take over Barclays. They say something completely different. They say, we've got a great digital application, we've got a digital car, we're looking for a highway. Can you help us find the highway for our digital car? So consumerization of technology, that's what's been going on for the past 15 years. When I started out in my career, it wasn't the case. Technology was adopted inside the office. And you may have heard of The Singularity is Near, another book for your reading list. Basically, Raymond Kurzweil says at a certain point we have to leverage technology just to understand how fast it's taking over our lives, because the rate of adoption of new technologies is emerging so quickly. Now this explains my entire business. You've got David. David is the digital enabler. He's that entrepreneur that's building the digital car. Goliath are all the different corporates that have distribution. They could be Tesco, they could be Barclays, they could be a train line, they could be Virgin Active. The biggest thing that corporates have today is distribution, audience, scale, reach, and they need to open themselves up to digital entrepreneurs. They need to put a big old signpost out there. They need to create an ability for those digital entrepreneurs to interact with their customers, because no venture capitalist today is going to give 50 million sterling to a digital David to go acquire customers. He or she's going to have to find that highway. And if the corporates don't become the highway, if they don't open themselves up and become that enterprise platform, they'll go to Amazon, they'll go to Apple, they'll go to Facebook and to Google and Salesforce.com and every other American technology firm, and they'll use their highway. Lots of examples of digital enablers engaging with corporates today. This David and Goliath dance is happening all over the market, and you'll spot this everywhere you go. So, many of you heard last August 2011, Mark Andreessen, the founder of Netscape, running one of the most disruptive venture capital firms in the world out in Silicon Valley. He was quoted by the Wall Street Journal in an interview. He said, "Software is eating the world." All businesses are being rebuilt as software firms. And I do mean, and he meant all businesses. Every business imagining is going to be rewritten with software and digital business models. And if for those of you that are out there that might be watching this that will say, well, yeah, but not my business, then you're basically going to get steamrolled over by a technology firm, a software firm, that's going to take over your industry, your sector, your company. It's happened in music. It's happened in books, it's happened in telcos, it's happening in banking, it's happening. It's just a question of how fast you die or whether you get onto the high growth highway. So given all that, what's the investment opportunity? Where do you go? Well, we have a cunning plan. We never forget at Ariadne Capital and at Entrepreneur Country, which is one of our 4 businesses, that innovation is about economics. People get confused. They're wrong. They think it's about technology. It's not. Remember, technology and finance are service industries to industry. They're supporting, they give leverage, they give growth, but they're not the main event. So innovation is about economics. If it were about technology, we'd all be flying the Concorde. We're not. We're stuffed in jumbo jets. So if there's one concept that I really want you to take away from today's talk, is that there's a profound network orientation to business, to all of life, in fact. Nothing operates linearly or hierarchically today. Nothing is about I'm buying, you're selling. Nothing is about I'm bigger, you're smaller. Nothing is about I'm right, you're wrong, so just do it and get on with it and report back. We're participating in a transaction. We're participating in an ecosystem. We're participating in a club, in a group, and so forth. And as a result of understanding and taking for given, even if you're not sure, go with it for a week with this concept that there's a network orientation to everything, and think therefore about the opportunities, because I guarantee you that the people who understand this are the ones who are going to be winning. Ecosystems ecosystem economics is what we believe predicts the winners. The people, whether they're in large printing companies or small mom and pop shops, the people who understand who's in their ecosystem and can figure out how they can drive a set of economics to create a growing pie and to create a set of shared economics in the central transaction. That could be buying milk at your corner store. That could be how ebooks are distributed. That could be about how printing reshapes itself in the world of ebooks. Any business operates in an ecosystem where the transaction is the micro representation of the macro ecosystem. We're participating in these, we're not dictating. We've moved to a world of carrots, not stick. Let's talk about Google and ecosystem economics. Google say that they organize the world's information. Actually, they do a lot more than that, don't they? They organize the economics of the world's information. And I and you, as consumers of their search, share in no economic or financial upside of the use of our data. They aggregate, albeit anonymously, our data, but they don't give us any upside whatsoever. Now, I've argued for a long time that their greatest Achilles heel would be if somebody would offer a different ecosystem economics approach to that and give the individual user a share of the economics. And I looked for that entrepreneur. I found him. His name is John Paleomalites. He's a British entrepreneur, and he ran a business called Beat That Quote. Beat That Quote was a financial services price comparison engine. It wasn't even the biggest one. It wasn't Money Supermarket. And when Google came knocking, looking for a company to acquire in that sector, they didn't think about Money Supermarket. They looked for the guy who had the business model that threatened them to their core, which was offering an economic value for the use of people's data. And they said, I think we'll have that one. And then they acquired Beat That Quote for 122 times EBITDA multiple. You don't do that unless you're threatened. Google is in the driver's seat because they understand ecosystem economics. They may not talk about it, but they absolutely do. But the opportunities are always to create a more inclusive set of ecosystem economics. And that's what Alistair Lukes did. Alistair Lukes is one of this country's most phenomenal entrepreneurs. He started with his vision of mobile banking and payments, the core of Monetize, a $600 million company that's just acquired its largest US competitor, backed by Visa, now listed on the London Stock Exchange, with the simple statement, he said, if this mobile banking is going to work, it has to work for everyone. Instead of just selling software to the banks, I'm going to create a set of economics for the mobile operator, the bank, lowering the cost of capital for the individual, compared to, say, Western Union, who are going to charge me 22% if I'm poor. I'm going to create a set of ecosystem economics which work. So just wrapping up, Monetize has created a global company because ecosystem economics have created that market pull. And they have created a huge m-commerce region as well. So in 2012, network benefits accrue to those firms who understand their role in their ecosystem and organize the economics for it. This in turn leads to exceptional returns for their shareholders. Thank you very much.